Okay, so middle school. Middleton Middle School, the second half of seventh grade and all of eighth grade. Was probably one of the worst experiences of my life because the psychological damage that it did, in some ways, I still have lingering issues. The vast majority of it I have now overcome, but it took 15, at least 15 years, maybe more, to undo that damage. And I will admit, a lot of it was because I refused to, go to a counselor. So that was probably part of it, but I mean, it is what it is. So going into seventh grade, well, first half of seventh grade was in Senegal. I had my 13th birthday, and then we left Senegal permanently, and the second half of seventh grade was in Middleton Middle School in Idaho. And I will tell you that there is nothing so cruel in this world as an American middle schooler. Senegal was all I knew. It was my home. People asked me where I was from, and Africa was the only reasonable answer for me to give them. So for those of you who may be too young, a little bit of history. In the 1990s, this was, 93, 94-ish, right around, 93, 94. So for those of you who may be too young, in the 90s, there was still some lingering, what's the right word? There's still some lingering rumors and negative image of HIV and the way that people with HIV were treated by society in general. There was still a lot of fear around HIV, and the rumor in the 90s was that the HIV virus came from monkeys in Africa. Now, it's important to understand that when I said that, when they asked me where I was from and I said Africa, there was one particular kid who decided that my nickname was Monkey Boy. And so, since I'm Monkey Boy from Africa, clearly, I must have HIV because, and of course, everyone calls it AIDS. AIDS is the disease, HIV is the virus, right? And you can have the virus and not have AIDS. AIDS comes like 12 years down the road after you get the virus, blah, blah, blah. But no one cared about that detail back then. Anyway, so I clearly, since I was Monkey Boy from Africa, I had HIV or AIDS. Of course, that was the word everyone knew was AIDS, or the acronym. And clearly, because AIDS is the gay disease, clearly I must also be gay. And so that was my 7th and 8th grade year. That is what I endured. Also, my family was dirt poor, and the only clothes I had did not fit me well. And I had no idea what high waters meant. Had no clue. All I knew was that they were making fun of me. I knew they were making fun of me. I didn't know what it meant or what it was, but I knew I was smart enough to know that. So that was my 7th and 8th grade year. Going into high school, here's the great irony of moving over to Caldwell High School. I was one of the popular kids, which is an utterly ridiculous thing to say. But the popular kids in Caldwell High School were the kids who were in the top 10% of the class academically. I ate lunch at the popular kids table. Those were the kids that I had all my classes with, all the AP classes, all the honors classes. I sat at their table at lunch, and I was convinced I was eating lunch with the popular kids at the popular kids table, and I was convinced I was an outcast. Let that sink in. That is how damaged I was from middle school. I probably could have dated in high school. I never did. There were some things that I regretted deeply. And the reason I regretted them is because the result, the things that happened that I will tell you shortly, happened because I didn't know. So, for instance, here's a good example. I ended up not going to prom. I did ask a girl to prom. I did. Yeah, she was in 9th grade, which wasn't a problem for me. Until somebody told me that prom was only for like seniors or something. And I had no idea. I had no clue. I had no idea. I had never been to a single school dance ever because I didn't want to go. I would, during pep rallies, like mandatory pep rallies, I would go to the, what's it called? The room, like if you have detention. So I didn't have to go to the pep rally. I would go to the detention room so that I didn't have to go to the pep rally because I hated it. I didn't want to go. I wanted nothing to do with that, whatever that was. I had no interest in sports. I had no interest in the fakery, and pep rallies and blah, 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 blah. Zero, none. I had no EQ, and that's short for emotional quotient. I had no social. I had no social. Like I couldn't read a room to save my life. There were so many things I didn't know because I was socially inept. And things that I would have liked to have done and probably would have done. And I ended up not doing because I would dare to step out and try something and then find out how badly I got it wrong. And I would just run and hide and not even try. There was a girl in particular who I think had it out for the girl that I asked to prom. who decided to share information with me that, I mean, for all I know, it was a complete lie. And I tried to tell myself that I was going to ignore it because it wasn't right. The problem is it was already in my head. And anyway, I never did go. And to get out of it, I made sure that, because I was working at Wendy's, I made sure that I was scheduled to work that night, so that I didn't have to go. That was my excuse, and I'm ashamed of the whole thing. But that's just, that's an example. That's one example of my high school experience. It was not a good experience in any way, shape, or form. The only solace I ever had in high school was running to the mountains, nature. And it was the same sort of thing I did as a kid in Senegal, was getting out into the woods, which is it's just like the things God protected me from. Like, at any point in my childhood in Senegal, I could have run into a cobra. Never did. There were no lions in our area. Well, okay, I mean, there were a few, but there were so few and far between. There was, the chance of running into a lion was basically zero. But hyenas, there were hyenas. Never ran into any hyenas, ever. I will say this. I mean, I did obey my dad. He said, here's the village. You can go to here. You can go to there. Don't go beyond these points. Never ever go over in this area. Like, he gave me these limits, and I obeyed. And so I don't know. Maybe that's part of why. I don't. But yeah. I did not have a good high school experience, and so I left high school, joined the Army with a lot of damage, and that just continued to go with me. It took a lot of years and a lot of God interventions to heal those things. And like I said, there are still some things that I'm probably carrying with me, but the vast majority of it, but 15, 20 years of carrying that, and in varying degrees, clearly, because it healed over time, and the things that God took me through were intentional to deal with those issues, particularly the anger. I didn't even know I was angry, and God pointed it out and said, "Oh no, you're angry," and I was like, "No, I'm not." Yeah, you are. And that took 4 years from the time he pointed it out until I really healed from it. That took about 4 years. It takes time. What other stories do I need to catch up on that I said I would talk about later